Kia ora, good evening. Cyclone Hale promised massive flooding, slips and destruction of property, and it delivered on the east coast with a vengeance. Despite legal battles to stop it happening, forestry runoff washed down rivers and gullies, leaving parts of Tolaga Bay looking like a wasteland. A state of emergency for the Tairawhiti region was issued just after 10 last night. It remains in place today as the community cracks on with the massive clean-up. Leighton Hale is there.
You probably can't tell, but this is a bridge and it's covered in tons and tons of forestry slash. Tolaga Bay copping much of Cyclone Hale's fury overnight.
You know, it was a lot of heavy rain, torrential from about 8 o'clock on.
Only the buggy could get the McNeils out to check on stock. Arakihi Road, the only way to or from home, is completely washed out.
This flood would be just about right up with Cyclone Bowler.
In fact, last night, Tolaga's Hikuwai River levels broke records set in 1988's Bowler, reaching 13.2 metres. This was it yesterday afternoon, and this was it at midnight, and it was a similar story up and down the coast.
Massive amounts of water have really ripped through some of the towns. You can see the damage to some of our core infrastructure.
The MP's seen much of the damage from the air, flying over the flooded east coast, a place that's seen it all before.
We've had our fair share of this, and it's almost like a rinse and repeat for us, and you know, it's not a nice way for our community to start a new year.
Evacuated residents have been making their way home to see the damage. That's if they can make it back. More than 50 roads remain closed, leaving some communities cut off. The cyclone was certainly felt in Gisborne City too, even causing a major slip on Hill Road. And all the silt from that slip, the debris, the trees, the branches, it's all come sliding down and into some homes. 4 inches of mud in the garage is interesting. All that muck causing quite the mess for Pete Oliver.
We had a bit of water through with a heavy rain on Saturday, and it's really hit us this time.
Rivers in town clogged by slash too. The significant amount of water only compounded by all the forestry debris, something companies have been prosecuted for in the past.
In times like these, I think people want to see us all be good neighbours, and forestry certainly has a role to play there.
Much of it will end up on beaches like here in Tolaga Bay. Don't be fooled by the blue sky, there's plenty of work ahead.
Yep, we'll have to get through it.
But in the meantime, some locals are making the most of it.
We wanted to go swimming in summer, so we thought we'd bring them to a nice flood.
It is summer after all. Well, it's supposed to be.
So Leighton, we saw the East Coast MP was there. What's Kitty Allen going to do to help those affected?
Well, she told me, Laura, that she's been speaking with fellow ministers, relevant ministers, who will be receiving advice from the National Emergency Management Agency. They'll be assessing the situation over the coming days to get the full picture of the full damage from this event, and that is when Kitty Allen says the government may be able to step in and support the region, whether that be funding for critical infrastructure or just assisting with the cleanup. That remains to be seen. As for the slash, she says companies have been prosecuted in the past, but the fines don't even meet legal fees, so that and why this keeps happening will form part of a discussion going forward, an important discussion, but right now the focus is on the people of Tairawhiti and helping them through this severe weather event.
Leighton Hale live from Gisborne. Tēnā koe. Heather's here now with more on Cyclone Hale, and where is the storm heading?
Offshore to the southeast, with all traces of hail gone by tomorrow night. But before then, it does still have a sting in its tail. With this storm system, the heaviest rain has occurred south and west of the storm centre. So as it moves over the east coast, there will still be rain, strong winds and thunderstorms in its wake. It does mean, though, that northern areas, including the Coromandel Peninsula, can focus on clean-up.
Great, thanks Heather. Well, as Cyclone Hale thrashed the Coromandel, one community building looked likely to be lost to the storm. Mercury Bay Boating Club in Whitianga has a rich history. In 1988, it challenged for the America's Cup. And today, members made the call to do whatever they could to save it. Alice Wilkins reports.
The frantic last-ditch efforts of a community trying to save its boat club, as an unruly ocean threatened what was left of the land it sat on after metres of ground was eroded overnight.
Last night was a really difficult and traumatic night. We've lost at least 3.5 or 4 metres over a 2-tide cycle.
Club members and Whitianga locals were sandbagging and laying concrete blocks from early this morning, preparing for the worst to hit the club building at the next high tide. They removed the building's deck and built a fortress, all without the council granting permission. They felt they had no choice.
This morning we made the very difficult decision to break the law, and we reached out to the community and to the community experts to assist us to build a temporary defence.
Whitianga was one of the spots completely cut off today. Both of the 2 main roads into the Coromandel closed. A giant slip blocked the highway known as the Coastal Road, while silt and muck covered the other route, State Highway 25A.
For the Kopehikawai Road, the goal is to see if we can get a lane open by darkness tonight. That's what we're trying to do, but we can't guarantee that we'll have that done.
Today's slip is nestled right beside where another major slip closed the same road with last week's bad weather. Contractors still haven't had time to finish clearing this one, and now they're dealing with another. All of the debris made travel impossible for locals and for tourists.
I've literally just come from Auckland, down, round, and then obviously that road's closed, so I just have to go all the way around. Scenic route.
Come from Melbourne, so we're used to bad weather. We've got low expectations.
But while road closures again ruined Coromandel holiday plans, there was one silver lining from the storm. The boat club, it survived.
It worked through the last high tide cycle. I don't want to test it in something like what I saw last night.
Now it needs to be picked up and relocated so the community doesn't need to fight through the night to save it again. Alice Wilkins, Newshub.
The wild weather is now moving down the country. This video shows the Kaiwhata River in Wairarapa close to bursting its banks. And in Picton, the Waitohi River is flowing over the bridge after more than 75 millimetres of rain fell in just 6 hours. The surface flooding is also delaying traffic heading to and from the Cook Strait ferries.